Morning, everyone. Ron Schofield, myself, and the rest of the First Centennial team would like to invite you to this great opportunity. So much going on across the country, all over the world, and we are so honored to bring Ted Jones early this year for a sneak preview of his economic forecast. Most of you already know Ted. I don't need a formal introduction as we have in the past as partners. You've been aware of Ted for many years. So Ted Jones, it's an honor on behalf of all of us. Thank you. We look forward to hearing what you have to say this morning.
Well, greetings from Houston, Texas, where it's a little warmer than it is there. Every year I have to come up with a new speech topic, and I thought we'd done so much retro stuff this past year. We cooked at home. We made our own bread. We ate at home. I mean, made most of our meals, all that kind of, didn't take a vacation. Like when I was a kid, you just didn't do that kind of stuff. So I decided something old school, something retro. And I figured it's the 3 R's of real estate and the economy. And my 3 R's, not reading, writing, arithmetic: reinvent, recharge, reignite. Now, we reinvented a lot of stuff. And reinvent means change. So I took this picture in New York City in 2019. You want to talk about change. In 2019, when you were in Times Square, first of all, there were people there, unlike today. Secondly, you really wanted a police officer around because you felt safe with police officers. That's not true with everyone today. Now, I do, on the other hand, that's just me. And my goodness, how things have changed, folks. I took this picture. I figured it's real classic. By the way, I have been on the road traveling. I've worked a week in September, worked a week in Alaska for our company. I've done, actually, even this weekend, going to Miami, Florida to speak live at another conference. But I thought this kind of summarized what 2020 was about. A lot of canceled, a lot of delayed. And the problem is some of those canceled flights will never come back. And that kind of describes the economy we're looking at right now. Now, I took this picture, oh my gosh, 15 years ago in the Caribbean. This is near the Bitter End Yacht Club. And we pulled up in our friend's sailed in, and dropped anchor. And I got my camera, got the dinghy, and I was going to take a picture of this boat. This guy said, "What do you think you're doing?" I said, "You're a builder, aren't you?" He said, "How did you know?" And I figured the name change order. Well, change order means change. And again, I'm going to go on with that theme of change. Oh, and when I lived in New Zealand, one of my good friends owned Super Liquor Man. We have drank a lot this past year, haven't we? I think my favorite quote from one of my friends is, "For the 3rd time this month, I'm going to the liquor store to buy enough liquor for the month." And I think it's changed. And talk about revisiting things. This picture's from Austin, Texas. It's 1989. Y'all remember, those of you that are old enough like me, we overbuilt. In fact, this was an office building that had been built and never occupied. They called them neutron buildings those days, like a neutron bomb. Neutron bomb won't destroy any real estate. It doesn't destroy the building, but it kills everyone. Well, that's pretty much what neutron real estate was. We got that. We have that again. Think about it. We don't need offices. Yeah, I've been in this office almost every day that I've not been traveling, except weekends. But it's rare. And it's still not uncommon to have only 4 or 5 people and 15,000 square feet here. So things have changed quite a bit. Oh, and just like offices today, we don't need as much as we used to have. Same is true for retail. And we'll talk about that as we go. So here's takeaways. We're going to do this up front. Well, by the way, as Rose said, this is kind of a teaser for our next First Centennial meeting in April. We'll talk about that at the end. What we have now is the highest intrinsic value of housing in our lifetimes. That means it has more personal value to it. And the reason is we've spent more time in our house than any time in history. It's impacted our quality of life, our lifestyle more than it ever has. That's why we saw a great recovery in housing sales. And remember, if y'all heard me in April last year, I said, we're going to have great housing sales. If y'all called me an idiot and nuts and everything else, but that was a good call. This pandemic merely accelerated pre-existing trends. Well, we already talked about, working from home. Think about how many of y'all don't need an office anymore. Now, I normally spend 240, 260 days a year on the road. I just need Wi-Fi and a computer. We will never utilize in our lifetime at this population density as much offices as we have now. Think about online sales. Yeah, we were already doing online sales. They just accelerated. Show you that in a few minutes. Oh, and we already had out migration. Y'all have been recipients of a large number of people exiting from California for decades, as far as that goes. That was accelerated by the tax cut changes 4 years ago. It's being accelerated again as you're seeing more and more people departing high density, high tax California into Nevada as a state. It only takes 66 days of repeating something to make it a habit on average, anywhere from 14 days if it's really fun and 214 days if it's not, or something like that, 264 days. So we're going to go a full year doing what we did. And that means we're all going to have new habits. So now some of us will regress back to where we're, but a lot of this change is permanent. One of my acquaintances is Tillman Fertitta. Tillman owns several casinos. He owns Joe's Crab Shack. He owns Morton Steakhouse, those kind of things. He's saying that when this is done, when we get to the new normal, whatever that is, because we don't know yet, he thinks that because people are eating at home so much now, that the new normal will be about 75% of the sales volume he said he saw pre-coronavirus at his restaurants. Macro factors rule. Rose, you talked about this up front. You asked me, what do you think about the politics, folks? Normally, when I talk about Reno or any market, I would say, here's what's going on in your market, because this is going to dictate what happens. Man, now what's dictating the pandemic, that's macro. Lowest interest rates in history, that's macro. The election, and still kind of unknown outcome, all you think you know, but you don't know. I mean, when I'm talking about the Senate races, we'll talk about that one. So macro factors now are more important to us than anything else. We don't know what the new rules are going to be, the taxes. We have a lot of economic unknown in here. Oh, and lastly, if we learned anything, it's this thing called omni-channel marketing. You know, I want to take you back, because I can remember when the MLS was a printed up paper book. And now we actually have people purchasing homes using virtual online tours sight unseen. You got to be every place. And that's what omni-channel marketing is. So just see where we came from and where we're heading to. Recessions defined as 2 or more quarters of negative GDP. GDP is simply the value of all the goods and services we produce. Fair enough. Q1, that's January, February, March, down 5%. But remember, that was only half of March. We wiped out all the gains of January and February and the first half of March in the second 2 weeks of March. That's amazing. Second quarter saw GDP drop 32.9%, biggest drop in GDP in the history of the United States. Third quarter, largest gain we've ever seen in history, up 33.3%. Goldman's forecasting year end will be at minus 4.6%. If you heard me in April, I was saying we're going to be at minus 10 to minus 14%. I'm glad I missed that one, but I'm surprised we're only down 4.6%. And next year, Goldman's forecasting, this year, that is, plus 5.3%. Now, you talk about change, and that's going to be my theme as you see through this. Look what we're doing with our salad bars, because you can't do that anymore. Look what we're doing with salad bars. Everything has changed like this. Now, when we were at home, we set a lot of new world records and personal bests. I want to know how many thousands of times that took. And if that was the first shot, that is a miracle without question. Guys, gosh, we've never spent this much time at home. Oh, and you talk about reinvent. If you hadn't bought because we did all staycations this summer, most people didn't travel anyplace. If you by the 1st of April hadn't decided you wanted an above ground pool, they were sold out. This is very ingenious reinventing people. They had a boat that was no longer seaworthy, but it was waterproof. You just build a platform and hook it up to a filter system and you got a pool. Oh, and if any of y'all do this, I want a picture of it. I think that'd be great. So let's just get in this. First of all, jobs. We'll drill down to Reno in a minute, don't worry. But I don't want you to look at the right-hand side first. I want you to look at 2010. That's the bottom, the trough of the Great Recession. From 08, the peak, to by the start of 2010, we lost 8 million jobs. Wow. But I want you from that trough, draw a line straight across the right. We essentially, numbers-wise, lost every job we added since the last recession. We did that in basically 1 month. It was amazing. You know, remember the Great Recession, we lost 8 million jobs. This one, 22 million. We lost 14.5% of our total workforce. Jobs just disappeared. We brought back 55.6%, excuse me. But I want you to look at that trail off on the right-hand side. I think it may be years before we get back to the job numbers we had in February. And we're going to talk about that more in a second. Good news is this update from last time we talked. Each year, the Tax Foundation, they do a study of which state's the most business friendly across the country. They look at 5 taxes: corporate income tax, personal income tax, retail sales tax, unemployment tax, and property tax. You are the 7th best place in the United States. Oh, and California, your neighbor, where a lot of y'all have moved from, or where people are still fleeing from and moving from, 49th worst. Only state worse than California is New Jersey, and then the one state better than California is New York. And again, we're seeing an exodus on that coast too. Florida's big recipient. You're one of the bigger recipients. Difference in California to Nevada is Californians are literally going 2 or 3 states away. They're going to Wyoming, they're Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, but Nevada, you get a lot of that. And I think that's a trend that's just accelerating, going to continue. Now, state job losses, you were the 3rd worst. That's from February to basically April. Sorry about that. Make sure I have that on mute. 3rd worst. Worst, Michigan. They lost almost 1 out of every 4 jobs in that trough. Y'all lost 1 out of 5 temporarily. And that's because of the concentrations of leisure and hospitality in the state. We know when we shut down, and shut down, we can shut down again. Remember that when he was running for presidency, President-elect Biden, as then Vice President, said that, of course, he said 2 different things depending on his crowd, but videos of him saying, yeah, he'd shut it down. We may see a shutdown coming up in just a matter of weeks as he becomes president. We don't know that yet. We'll have to wait and see. Now, that's the losses, but here's recoveries. And remember, you want to be on the left-hand side. Look at Idaho. They brought back 95.9% of all the jobs that they lost, which is pretty amazing, guys. You brought back roughly 2/3, not quite, but you're almost in the top third. That's good. Look at Hawaii on the bottom. Gosh, tough. But remember, they just recently opened up. I actually was there over the holidays. I have a daughter that lives there, and yeah, those flights were pretty bare, and the airport was empty. So Nevada. Now, come across from Nevada, the trough. Remember, just like we did. And you come across, and we essentially almost close lost all the jobs since the Great Recession. But you can see that recovery is continuing a little bit better than the U.S. The U.S. is kind of trailing off, and Nevada is doing well. I think that's a lot of people that are moving their lives and their businesses into Nevada from California and other high-density populated areas. You look at Reno, all right, and here's what I want to talk about Reno. Here's what made Reno economically different, which I like. Notice your trough. Yeah, it's roughly, you pick which year you want, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there. If you come over to the where we dipped down to, you did not lose all the jobs we created since the last recession. And you have a nice recovery rate going on out there. In fact, I think you may be on track 2023, 2024, somewhere in there, getting back to the job numbers that you had before we turned in this pandemic. A couple things help us out. Lowest interest rates in history. Wow. Wow. And say it again, wow. In fact, it's never been better. And if you haven't refinanced and you still have your job and a credit rating, you better do it now, folks, because great time, great opportunity time. And be sure and close it first centennial. We know, understand that. I did this. It's one of my blogs, but I want to show you how incredibly affordable lower rates have made despite rising prices. I saw an article this past week was talking about the insane unaffordability of housing, and I'm going to say bull to that one. What I did, those blue bars, read it on the left-hand side, that is the average conventional 30-year fixed rate mortgage rate for the year. All right. Back in 89, we're a little above 10%. On the right-hand side, in that black line, that simply is the percent we would have to spend of the median household income to buy the median home. In other words, you look in 2021, it's roughly going to be about 16%. We'll spend 16% on average in the U.S. of median household income to buy the median price home. Now, that's about half what it was if you think about that back in 89. This affordability has been incredible. Again, that's helped the intrinsic value. I will tell you this too, rates will go up eventually. And when they do go up, if they go up a bunch, we could actually see home prices dial back. But as more and more of the U.S. becomes inoculated, vaccinated against this pandemic, assuming that we don't, these unknowns, we're going to talk about all these unknowns, assuming that it doesn't mutate and not work and all that kind of stuff, then we could see a home price drop somewhere down the line. Now, home sales, and again, I don't like this number that the National Association of Realtors utilize. They use seasonally adjusted annualized rate of sales. No, that would show us selling more than 6.6 million homes. That black line, green in the background, that's simply median price. But here's the one I like. And the reason I like it, it's what you realtors got paid in closings. It's what title people like First Centennial got paid to do the closing. It's what surveyors got paid on. We don't get paid unless it closes. And so that black line is a total number of sales in the prior 12 months. And you can see that in the US, we're doing really good. In fact, not anywhere near the 6-point-some million that NAR suggests in that seasonally adjusted annualized rate, but good, much better than it was a year ago. And that's good news. But what's been surprising about housing sales, usually when you have downturns like this, uncertainty, man, the luxury market, whether it's for cars or houses or anything else, it hurts. Look at this one. This is NAR's latest. These are monthly sales, not seasonally adjusted, which is good. They're showing that our greater than $1 million and up homes sales in November were almost double what they were a year ago. And remember, I told you because housing has the highest intrinsic value in history. That's why we're going to go live that money. We're going to, because since that house impacts how much our lifestyle goes, we're going to put our money in the houses. And that's what we've done. I think the only reason that sales are down in the less than $100,000 range, the only reason they're down is there's nothing left to sell in that price range listing wise. Reno Sparks home sales, guys, pretty dang good, guys. Pretty doggone good. You take a look at this. We dipped initially. And like I said, if you heard me in April, I said home sales would come back, and they certainly have. Best home sales in 2 years, folks. And that's good. I expect home sales to hang in at about this level next year, but we'll know more in April when we visit again. Now, values, that's kind of up in the air. A lot of people are forecasting real strong ones. I'm going to go with CoreLogic. CoreLogic said in the 12 months ending this coming September, home values will have only moved 0.2%. Wow. And the reason I'm going with CoreLogic is they make that call every month, 12 months in advance, and they're real accurate. They're very transparent. We talked about this before, but first thing that helped us out this recession, cheap interest rates. Second thing that's helping us out, at least for 99.5% of U.S. households, cheap energy. Guys, the only households that doesn't help out are those that are in oil-producing areas. You look at Western North Dakota, the Midland Permian Basin, Odessa area of Texas, Southeast New Mexico, Pennsylvania, or all the oil producing areas. But you can see our oil prices are cheap, and that allows more money to stay in people's pockets. Now, I told you we were going to talk about why I don't think some of these jobs will come back for years. And when that person gets a job, it probably won't be the same job that they lost at all. And we're going to use oil as an example, but I'm not saying this is the oil industry. I'm saying this is why it's going to take so long to get these jobs back. Now, if you ever want to ride, I don't know if you like wooden roller coasters, the wild ride supposedly, but the wildest ride in roller coasters is probably the oil and gas industry. Remember this, in the US, we have a recession about every 10, 12, 14 years. It's up and down and around every 10, 12, 14 years. Look at oil and gas. Here's the price per barrel. From 07 to 09, it more than doubled, and then it went down even more. That is a wild roller coaster ride. So I'm going to ask for some generous rounding. Please let me do this. I'm going to show you what an industry has to do to survive in downturns like this. So go with me, 2010 through 2014. Let's say it's roughly $100 a barrel. 2015 to the start of 2020, $50 a barrel. How does an industry survive when what you're selling gets cut in half, or you sell half as much of it, either one? Well, what you do, if you got a fixed cost, you got to sell more just to break even. And that's exactly what oil and gas did. Back at the start of 2015, when oil was $100 a barrel, we were producing 8.9 million barrels. In 2019, when it was $50 a barrel, we had increased production by almost 40%. That's part of it. You got to sell more, got to get more revenue. Did you notice before Christmas and the holidays, all these restaurants selling, but we'll give you 20% more coupons of gift coupons if you buy the money now because they needed the cash now. That's kind of like selling more. Guys, They cut their jobs 20%. 1 out of 5 workers in the oil and gas industry no longer in that industry, even though production is up 40%. And I guarantee you, every business in America is doing this exact same thing. They're not oil and gas, but trying to sell more of anything they can and cutting their costs. Now, real, whenever you see the word real in economics, just think of inflation adjusted. That means we don't have to, well, if you account for the value of the dollar, the money, blah, blah, blah. No, this is equal to equal, apples to apples, so to speak. GDP is 70% composed of retail and food service sales. And we plunged, as you can see, it started 2020. We came back, but we just kind of hooked over. Oh, we hooked over in November, which was surprising. And I'm going to show you that we're buying a bunch of stuff, but what we're buying is different, and where we buy it's different. And those are some of the new habits. Look at this. This is what they call segments of retail sales and sources. And remember, I said we're buying stuff from different places. We're buying different stuff. Just go down there. Look at second to the bottom. Excuse me, non-store retailers. That's everything you buy online. Their sales in the first 11 months of this year compared to last year, up 30%. Wow. Look at sales are down. Look at clothing and clothing accessories. Year to date, down almost 20%. Wow, guys. Those are amazing, amazing numbers, folks. I still find it humorous in June, depending on which part of the country, you know what the best-selling items were? Sweatsuits or shorts, t-shirts, and flip-flops. You know what the worst selling items were? Men's suits and ties and shirts, and women's dresses and suits and high-heeled shoes and makeup. Well, with face masks, you didn't need any makeup, did we? Think about that. All it did is mess it up. Yeah, we've changed, folks. And some of these are going to be permanent. Now, we're not going to go slide back to where we were, but we're going to be higher than we were. Look at this one. Remember I told you we're accelerating long-run trends. We're selling more e-commerce. Look what happened in Q2 when we stayed at home. And in Q3, it dropped because we were now out and about. We knew we weren't going to go out to the grocery store and get killed. We knew we could go into a hardware store and not die. You think about all the stuff but notice how much higher Q3 was than before. And I think these are changes that are permanent. Commercial real estate sales, deja vu all over again. John Fogerty, Creedence Clearwater Revival, said it the best when he had that song. What happened in 08, 09, it looks like it's happening again as we speak. Wow. In fact, here's Nevada. Kind of what happened in 08 and 09, at least 08, kind of looks like it's happening again. Now, didn't hit the peaks we hit in Nevada. And a lot of that in that 08 stuff that was sales in 07, a lot of that was Las Vegas. This is statewide. Fortunately, I don't have these data sets just for Reno. But you can see that commercial sales are falling off, and that's because of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. Now, Nevada commercial real estate sales, here was the percent changes. This is percent change in 08 compared to 07. All right. You think, well, we won't ever see that again. I don't know. Q3, and this is for Nevada, this year, preliminary was down 73%. Well, if you add up and kind of average, the timing's not exactly right. Q4 and its preliminary down 85%. Y'all notice that, well, Mark Twain said it, history may not repeat itself, but it certainly does rhyme. There we go. Now, how quick this is going to turn the corner is going to be how quick and how effective and how many people become vaccinated. And that we don't know either. We'll talk about that. Now, I want to show you, let's just look at what's selling in commercial. I know some of you are in commercial real estate. You either invest it, you manage it, you sell it, you live in it, some of it, apartments, that type of thing. And a lot of your economy depends on this. Apartments, year to date, this year down 43% from a year ago. Industrial, kind of the big winner. Think about everything that you don't buy from a retail storefront that's purchased is either curbside, right? Drive-through, front door, and the front door is coming from industrial properties. That's where Amazon is at, so to speak. Only down 27%, only. You say only, you see how good that looks. Hotels, devastated. Down 74% year to date. In fact, Q3 down 84.7%. Wow. Offices and retail, remember, both had the ongoing trends that we didn't need them as much. Online purchases, e-commerce, and for offices, Those of us that work remotely, it was growing and growing and growing, and now it's accelerated. Lastly, we can see that total commercial real estate down quite a bit. Now, going back to leisure and hospitality, guys, because so much of your economy is leisure and hospitality based. We lost half of all the jobs, and now we got them, a lot of them back, right? But it's flatlined. And this pandemic is not over, and this will remain just like this until you can get on a crowded elevator, right? Take the last seat on an airplane and be comfortable, or go to a Texas A&M football game and not worry about it. This pandemic is not over. Now, I want to show you, this was one of my tweets, and if y'all don't follow me on Twitter, you need to. This is a tweet from this morning. My Twitter account's DRTCJ. This was amazing. Let me set this picture up. In-store traffic, this Sensormatic, they actually have sensors that count the people in and out of stores across the country. It's a part of a division of Johnson Controls, like you use on heating and cooling type thing, but this is kind of neat in retail. From the 6-week period, from the Sunday before Thanksgiving to January 2nd, the number of people in stores dropped 33.1% compared to a year ago. Wow, 1/3 less. And what's amazing, total retail sales are estimated to be up 6.8% from Christmas and the holidays. So we're selling almost 7% more with 1/3 fewer people going through our stores. That says we don't need as much retail real estate. Pretty amazing. And this is going to hurt even more because y'all have so many great restaurants in Reno. National Restaurant Association says 100,000 restaurants either shuttered permanently or indefinitely, and 40% of restaurant proprietors think they will be out of business by spring without government stimulus. So the question is, are we going to have more stimulus? I'm going to answer this. I think we're going to get another round of $2,000. Vice President-elect Biden has said that he would like to do that. You hear all the new congressmen and women, and they kind of on board with that. And of course, we will know exactly when the final Senate seat is determined for Georgia. But we're going to visit that in a second too. Guys, but will we give stimulus to those businesses to keep them in business? And unfortunately, this pandemic has made the rich kids richer. When I say that, big corporate America, look at Amazon, look at Home Depot and Lowe's. They're just grinding away. They're just doing phenomenal. Walmart. On the other hand, tell me about your mom and pops, and look at California now where they're shuttered, or Hawaii where they were, what have you. Pretty amazing. And so we have not backstopped the small business, mom and pops. Worse than that, and here's why I'm not as optimistic about the economy. Small business, that's a business that has 300 or less workers, generates 70% of all job growth in America. And as we see those go out of business, it's going to be difficult to get back to the levels we were at. Commercial real estate, instead of the 30-year mortgage rate, we kind of use a baseline as a 10-year treasury rate. I also want to show you the amount of risk in commercial real estate today. That green line, that's the 10-year treasury rate. That's risk-free. And it's roughly about 1% right now, not quite. Okay. That orange thing is a cap rate. Value is equal to income divided by the cap rate. Some people will say, look at the big spread between those two lines now, bigger than, look at 06, 07. Well, that's the spread. That's the difference. And notice that, yeah, we were high. We got a little bit better last month. That's because we felt good. I mean, it's holiday period, Christmas, the whole works, guys. And there were some end of the year transactions that had been priced in already and what have you. But that's not even the measure of risk. What you need to do, according to the capital asset pricing model, you need to essentially divide that spread by the risk-free rate. And you can see that we're as risky as it's ever been. Now, good news is it came back last quarter. That's good news. Fourth quarter preliminary number. Bad news is it's still higher risk-wise than it's ever been. And it's risky because you don't know what's going to happen. Will people ever go back to theaters? When will air travel, and that means hotels and everything else, be back where it was? Some people say air travel won't be back till 2023, 2024, 2025, if that, because so many businesses now realize they don't have to have people out travel around. All right. So Rose, I'm going to answer your tax question right now. First of all, these are not my opinions. These are the opinions. Bottom right-hand corner, you can see my source of every one of these. This is a study done in October by Cushman and Wakefield. And first question is, what's going to happen to our debt? Well, first of all, it's crazy. It's crazy exploded. And secondly, it didn't make a whole lot of difference who had won the election. It was going to grow a bunch. Cushman Wakefield said, assuming each of those parties were in office for 4 years, their plans, their platform, Biden would have increased our federal debt 5.6 trillion over the next 10 years because you have residual effects, even though they're only there 4 years. Trump, another 4.95 trillion. It's not far apart. So that notion that we had that Republicans want to have, control spending went out the window, guys, but rightfully so. Now, this is a tax foundation. And remember that when then Vice President, now President-elect Biden, he campaigned on eliminating the Tax Cut and Jobs Creation Act. Now, the neat thing, I use the Tax Foundation a lot. They're an independent, not-for-profit out of Washington, D.C. Every election, you need to start going to them because regardless of what parties, who's ever running for presidency, they run it through their general equilibrium model. And they say, if this platform is enacted, here's what happens to the economy. Well, if you eliminate the Tax Cut and Jobs Creation Act, GDP drops 1.6%, capital stock minus 3.75%. And you say, well, why do I care? That's your 401k, folks. That's all your stocks right there. Wages drop a little over 1% and immediately 500,000 jobs are eliminated. Wow. So think about that. The tough one, and when I say tough, this is our global competitiveness. We were at a 28% before the tax cut for corporate taxes. We're now at 21%. At 21%, we're the 19th best of the 36 economically developed countries in the world to do business in tax-wise. That's partially one of the reasons why we brought more manufacturing jobs back, and you're a beneficiary of those jobs without question. President-elect Biden says he wants to eliminate the tax cuts. That takes our corporate tax rate back to 28%. That now makes us a 33rd best out of 36 countries. That will eliminate some of our manufacturing jobs because they'll go offshore in a globally competitive business. And the real kicker, and I'm talking to any of y'all that invest in real estate, commercial real estate, or any of y'all, when I say commercial real estate, a rental property can be commercial real estate for your house that's rented out. But think about what's going to happen here. We currently, the capital gains tax rate is 20%. Now, granted, you have a 3.8% Affordable Care Act tax, so it's effectively 23.8%. Vice President Biden, now President-elect Biden, says that he wants to eliminate 1031s and capital gains taxes. Huh. Oh, and if you make over 400,000, not only would you pay the top corporate rate, it'll then be 39.6% when you cut that. You have to add the 3.8% to it. So our capital gains rate would go to 43.4%, not including that in an individual state. Of course, you don't have that issue. Folks, this happens, we'll sell properties less frequently, and the value of the property will go down. That's bottom line. Now, lastly, this is a hot issue. And by the way, I'm going to say this: Vice President Biden, every time he campaigned, I heard him say he wants to do a national minimum wage of $15 an hour. I'm going to argue that you can't live on $15 an hour. But on the other hand, this is Congressional Budget Office that says this. They studied if we were to incur a $15 per hour minimum wage, then good news is you would lift 1.3 million people out of poverty. You would make them very happy. Bad news is you would eliminate 1.3 million jobs. You would help 1.3 million and decimate another 1.3 million. Not easy calls, folks. Here's the unknowns, Rose, and this is where we're going to kind of talk about what's coming up. Vaccines. Well, first of all, isn't it amazing we're not getting it distributed? A lot of people are saying, I don't want to take it. Wow. Oh, and then the question is, are the vaccines, are they going to work on mutations? Like these new mutations, we know if the vaccines going to work? Don't know. Oh, and can there be other mutations? You bet. This will be ongoing. That's the way viruses work. Those are unknown. You and I still can't answer what's going to be the stimulus, what the new tax rate's going to be. We don't even know who won the Senate election, although it's starting to get close. You would think you could make that call. Oh, and even if, let's say, President-elect Biden has the House and the Senate, what's he going to do? Because he wouldn't answer a lot of those questions, and reporters wouldn't ask all those questions to him. Wow. We don't know what the new normal is. And tell me, how does COVID play out? When do we go back to work? How long is the vaccine going to work? If you get 2 shots, are you good for life? Are you good for a year? We just don't know this stuff. And there's a lot more to know. Well, Rose has already asked that we do this again on April 22nd, hopefully in person, Rose. By then we'll find out. I got to show you this. One thing we do know is the stock market is completely insane. How do I know that? I know y'all have a Tesla facility there and what have you, and I'm not trashing Tesla or anything else like this. I want to show you what the stock market insanity has done. Now, Tesla last year delivered a little less than 500,000 vehicles. There's 70 million sold worldwide, cars total. Tesla came out of about 0.7%. And this is on December 31st. That's even more insane now. Market cap is simply the price per share times the number of shares that are outstanding. Tesla's market cap on December 31 was 670 billion. If the combined market cap of Fiat Chrysler, all right, Ford, Honda, BMW, GM, Daimler, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and Toyota was less than the value of Tesla. And folks, I don't care if you drive them, or I don't care if you love the car, don't care if you own the stock, that is insanity. I'm a big believer that there's going to be fortunes made in real estate, commercial real estate, because we're going to have some distressed properties. Hope you follow me on my Twitter, DRTCJ. Read my blog, blog.stewart.com. And isn't it amazing? We had all these tools going into this pandemic we didn't know we needed. Well, kind of like this guy. This guy could use a pickup to haul that board around. Rose, I want you to, in your group, it's First and 10, think about remote online notaries and everything else. We had all the tools to get us through this and process the largest refinance wave in history in hot home sales. Lastly, talk about changing. Couple, Colorado. They'd never been to Colorado. They wanted to move there. They went online, looked at a home virtually, made an offer, okay, got accepted, packed their U-Haul, moved in, and at the closing, this is one of our offices in Colorado, didn't even get out of the vehicle to do the wet signatures as required by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. We have changed our world, folks. We have changed our world. Rose, Ronnie, you guys have any questions, comments?
Wow. I can't wait to have you back April 22nd at 10 a.m., no matter whether we're live or on Zoom. Great food for thought, a lot going on to see how your economic forecast rolls out. So thank you so much, Ted. It's always a pleasure to have you. We will have this recorded and available for those who weren't able to, or if you missed a part of it, or if you'd like to see it, we'll be making this available to you a little later.
And Rose, I will send you a PDF within an hour so you can distribute to anyone if they want the actual slides. So
perfect. Ted, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in April.